Hello, you glorious people, and welcome back to the Quake Pro League. We finally made it to that beautiful 10th week, and we are locked in to decide what the placements are going to be after our last round of games. And I'm joined by a very special man, Jahar. It's lovely to have you on. How are you doing?
It's lovely to be here. It's lovely to be awake. I'm sure, like me, a lot of Americans are going to be up a little bit early to watch games this Sunday, including one of our early American players, Dewey. He's in the same time zone as I am, so hopefully he's feeling a little bit better than I am.
Oh, mate, don't worry. You look like you've had your beauty sleep, so I don't think it'll affect you. You'll be
Sleep
ready for
anyway.
some
Yeah.
action.
More
We should
coffee, more help.
hopefully have some good games though from the Americans. As you said, obviously still sticking to the same schedule that we've been doing over the course of this, where we do have the mixed matchups, and we can break into that straight away as well. Just to have a look at the games that are coming up tonight. As there's a few bangers this week, Jahar. Obviously, a couple of diamonds in
Yeah.
the rough, some big games as well that I've got my eye on. But also, it's just the fact we need to decide placements. It's week 10.
There are a few players where, like you said, it's week 10. It's the final one before the finals. Some of these guys, their fates are sealed. Some of them are a bit of a toss up. One or two of these matches in particular are going to be real biters, and some of them won't really impact the finals too much. But they are matchups that have a lot of historic precedent to them and a lot of back and forth, and that's kind of been the tone of the entire league, really.
I think it has been, yeah. I guess especially for me as well, just looking at a couple of the games we've got coming up tonight, it's big storyline wise as well. Once we get a little bit later on, I'm going to bring it up immediately. I'm really excited for Game 7, Kilson Razy. I think that is going to be a
Yeah.
personal fan favorite, obviously reminiscent of what we saw back in Poland. So much to delve into with that one.
Yeah, that one went what 3-1 in the bracket there, and that was
Mm.
Razy actually taking it. It was a crazy series. Kilson is one of those guys where uh, i- things change rapidly. Metabolisms are difficult to manage, and then Kilson's got one of the quickest ones in the game, really.
Well, he has to, being a cheater and all that. You can't
Yeah,
stay that slim otherwise. Bringing it back to our first start of the day as well, coming down towards game 4. That's another little gem, I feel. Avic versus Cypher. It's the history of those two for me. Cypher always gets me in the jellies whenever I get to see him play. Avic as well. It's the same situation. He's a bit of a Polish punisher, isn't he?
the Polish punished lately, to be honest,
Mm,
and
very
Cipher,
true.
he was kind of out of Quake Champions for a little while. He came back into rapturous applause, and he's been solid ever since. He's been putting in a lot of time. I don't know what else he does when he doesn't have a mouse in his hands.
I don't think he does. I think he is literally just the AI designed to just pop heads in arena FPS. That's literally his sole mission in life.
He said Belarus is too small for two professional level Quake players. So yeah, he's staking his claim.
He's got to be the only one. Oh, there is some good games though, and honestly, I think we're in for a treat, and especially just purely based off the fact that so many of our players over the course of this season have been grinding, but we've seen noticeable improvement, especially from the North American scene for me. Obviously, final game of the night, I think is quite a poetic end. You've got Chain versus Rafa, which even just as a benchmark to see where Chain has come from, obviously from his huge victories he had back at the stage 2 finals to now, I'm just curious.
Yeah, right now the curious thing, just looking at the raw numbers and looking at the way Rafa's been performing for the last several years, is can you take a map off of him? I'm not saying it's impossible for anybody to do that, but right now that is the goal that has been set by the entire season.
Yeah, that's kind of at the moment really a crowning achievement because it's Rafa. He's also now kind of reached that next level again, where it's just like, well, he is just straight unbeatable. Like it's crazy how good his form has been. We say that normally, but especially now, it's damn right just scary. And I think that's reflected by what we have going on in the standings as well. That we can bust out the microscope, have a bit of a deeper look into, as this is how things are standing now after week 9.
And as you can see, I mean, Rafa just kind of pulls the life force out of every other American player, which is my personal theory of what accounts for the disparity between him and everybody else on the planet. But yeah, I mean, rankings are looking fantastic at this point. There's a few players who came in from the challengers last season who have had to kind of struggle their way up the ladder since then. And yeah, again, this is going to be kind of an important day for both Sib and Effortless.
It truly is going to be an absolute grind for them. It is quite scary how much of a paradigm shift we've had going on with these standings over the weeks. So many of the names that we really were harping on about throughout stage 1 and stage 2, trying to sort of build them up again to see if we get them back into that old sort of mindset of being those fragging powerhouses. Names like Tox, Cypher starting to worm their way back up towards the top. Good to see Base at least keeping his position 7th as well. He had such a huge run in Poland, and now coming back towards our next finals, I think it's more important than ever to obviously say the fact that he had a top 3 placement there. He was coming in looking reinvigorated. Obviously, the change of the style, not necessarily just being that slow defensive player, just playing off control, but having a bit more pizzazz to his gameplay as well, switching it up a little bit. It's good to see that growth that we've had coming out from Base. And I'd like to see him do well tonight, but obviously it's going to be a hard opponent facing off versus Ron initially.
Yeah, and of course, Xron has not been having a fantastic run of it either. So Base is here to prove that he's not plateauing just yet.
Yeah. Well, that's also the hard part is obviously for Zron, right? It feels kind of unfair the fact that he's been left down in 17th position as individually we know how well he can perform. And I'd say he's well above that level. It just seems like he's been completely off this time around.
Well, hopefully he's got the eye of the tiger today. Going into this, I mean, obviously the matchup all in all kind of favors Base a little bit, but when it
Mhm.
comes down to the individual maps, I'm kind of finding myself at a loss.
Well, let's have a bit of a deeper look then and actually bring up that veto for the viewers at home and start to go over this because obviously champion pick wise, it looked pretty clean cut to me. But map wise, what are you thinking, Jahar?
Oof. Again, it's going to be a toss up. There's been so much going back and forth between not only the map picks but also the champ bans and picks as well.
Hmm.
There have been a few picks that have either solidified either at kind of a meta level or at an individual player level. But again, this is week 10.
Yeah.
You also have to consider the fact that going into finals, there might be a few things that are still being kept under wraps. But if you're at a point where you're in danger of going up against a challenger in the final bracket, then this might be the time to pull out all the stops.
Oh, it definitely is. This is basically like the last chance saloon to really show what energy he has left. And hopefully for Zron, there is something else left in the tank. He needs to go into this one reinvigorated, right? Because I mean, what is the alternative? Otherwise, Base just lives up to the high
Stay
life,
home. Yeah.
closes it down with a nice victory. Yes, stay home,
I mean, I guess
social
we're all
distance,
staying
stay
home.
away
Yeah.
from him. uh,
But no,
well,
I
at
mean,
least we
Zron,
really
he
are going to be on
gets
that home
like
turf.
50 hectares to the kiloliter, so hopefully
Mm,
he's got something for us here today. Looks like we're going into Molten Falls first.
yeah, a Molten to kick us off with a Slash versus Visor. Quite classic, really. Nothing too far fetched on our opening matchup, but it's a nice one to ease this in. Good little Molten in the morning.
Molten Coffee, Molten Falls, and hopefully everybody stays off the edge. But yeah, I'm really hoping to see some fun movement here. We got Slash coming out as well as the other butt grinder, Strog. So not a whole lot of opportunities to kind of whip around the edge of the map, but certainly routing between Mega and Red is going to be pretty intense.
Oh, it will be indeed. It does seem like we're almost ready to get underway with this one straight away. Of course, this is week 10. It's our opening matchup. Xron versus Base will be our duelists for this one. As the brawl for the belt rages on, it's the last chance for them to secure some extra points going into the stage 3 finals.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching Base out of the gate here as he's got the initial pickup of Rail and Heavy Armor. Going to be defending it just a little bit. Zron's not pushing in just yet, having taken away the Mega and Rockets, but he's going to want a Railgun of his own. Looks like he's managed to sneak in there and get the pickup. Base popping the visor, looking for the initial hits, getting the first one, but he's lost track of him even with the wall hack. And so now Base is just going, all right, fine. Time to take a Mega, time to trade places on the map. But for the initial 30 seconds, nobody's really come away clear with an advantage, neither in weapons or stack.
Yeah, not too much going down other than the initial scuffle they've gotten into. Near miss on the rocket as well, fired up to try and keep Base at bay. Got about 10 seconds of a split there on the major items as well, and Base is just going to start to rotate back out, picks himself up the rail. Finally,
I never like coming around this corner, but he's gotten one rail in just to kind of, carve his feet into the sand. But diving down from below for this Mega, it's a ballsy play. Base trying to throw out a little bit of tri-bolt of his own. He's able to sneak away with that Mega, and Xron didn't really feel confident in throwing down more spam than we saw out of him. He's going to get caught down in the railgun as well. Base has lost track. Teleporter heard. Here comes the LG. Just a little spat of damage, but Xron is still, you know, floating like a, well, like a piece of ice in a day-old bucket of Coke. It's not really that aggressive just yet.
I mean, at least he hasn't melted. That's quite an achievement. That's old ice. Base, certainly old ice cold, rather, as he will drop down, grabs himself that mega. Classic start to Molten, though, really. Just the initial conversations, a little bit of chip damage from a distance. No big overcommittals coming out just yet. Ooh, quick shot on the rocket, not actually going to connect. Base forced to fall back, so he does take a bit more damage than he's used to. Rotates back around to at least gather himself a couple of scraps. LG in hand, damage coming across as the taser will start to rip through Xron.
Yeah, Xron has to be wondering, is this it? I've done some damage. Have I actually fought him off of the Mega? There's the pickup, but there's the rail in response. They both come away bleeding. It's a rush back over to the heavy armor. Was Xron, taking that rocket. That knocks him off course for both the rail and the pickup. It's an awkward exit, but one that he just barely walks away from. Base has got to get some poverty items and stack back up.
Base right now, at least being able to adjust back off the LG, just tickling towards his feet, trying to make it a bit cheaper to buy shoes for Xron in the future. He's just holding, playing off the audio cues though, expects him to drop down to secure the Mega. That's the tag off with the rail. Fast on his feet as he adjusts, knowing he's going to be coming straight towards that heavy. Can't quite get the grasp off. Will launch himself off. Lovely rail work coming through, and there's the first frag on the board.
And all of that was so decisive from Base as well. He was nailing the rails, making clean pickups of the heavy, not really getting battered around by Xron too much, where even with Base going for the riskier item, it was Xron having to react with his movement. And that's going to turn into a first frag. There's a little bit of a high play going with that Mega taken with hardly any damage done, but still a rail coming out of Base. Xron is on death's doorstep. Knock, knock. It's frag 2 for Base.
Yeah, sets him up on a date with the coroner to keep this one rolling, and as soon as Base finds his footing, he'll try and get his advantage with that. Keep it moving. He just prefer that slower style of play, but right now he's really turned the tempo up.
Yeah, you say slower style, and that's exactly what Xron needs to be looking for now. That early minute where he was able to disengage from fights pretty easily, that time has gone, and now Base with this monster stack is going to be incredibly dangerous. Xron, he's got to get that rail. He's got the pickup on that side of the map, but he's got to make sure that anything he throws Base's way is enough to keep him off his back.
About 4 minutes into this one, it's a big early game lead for Base. Spotted out Xron once again, coming around with a predictive play. He was hoping he would actually get the rail off. Nice little flick. Do quite a lot of damage. Xron, low on livelihood, just barely scavenging a few.
That was a lost opportunity, certainly, but Xron's able to recover just a little bit. But coming in from the nail side, it's going to be a little bit touch and go. Base wants to do all the touching, and Xron wants to do all the go, but he's going to escape back through rail, pretty much giving up that heavy armor. He's throwing off a little bit of extra damage, but he's paying dearly for it. I'm not sure if that was the shot to stick around for Xron, having to take more 25s back up, not really being able to move back out of there, allowing Base to rotate back to Mega, essentially for free. Finally, we have a rail coming out, but here comes the rocket jump. Xron's in trouble. He's got to back out of there.
Has to retreat, back pedals, but Base, he's fast on his feet, adjusts, but not furious enough to actually land that shot with the rail. Drops down for the meantime to reposition as he works his way back over towards the heavy. Spawns in about a second as he is there, perched up on the pedestal, swoops in to grab it. He's still got a major lead into this one. Xron not really being able to find much of an opener.
Base is kind of playing it cool down at the Mega. He was, careful with the edge, but he was playing as if he thought that Xron was going to get ballsy and go for the pickup. But so far, Xron has been looking twice before he cuts at all, if he does. But with this heavy coming back up, Xron might actually be in position for a pickup. It's going to need more tribal to vomit out. Heavy's up, taken by Xron, Base back over at Mega, but there's not a whole lot here for him except time. He's got the piercing sight. He can keep Xron from getting the initial shot off. But once that runs out, he's got to leave.
To concede it, couldn't hit the shot on the getaway as well, to at least try and strip some of that beneficial extra stack that Xron picked up. Doesn't go for the rail pickup just yet as well, just keeps on moving. Base finally forced into the back foot, only in terms of stack. If you can at least waste time, then he can still find himself climbing back up this greasy pole of a game.
Xron's not the greasiest one, you know. But Base is getting some fantastic rockets, but finally there's the return from Xron, getting his first frag on the board. It's about time. But these rails coming out of Base right out of the spawn, gonna make it difficult for Xron to keep any kind of control.
We're about 7 minutes into this one. Xron playing off the audio once again. Heavy should be taken by Base once he makes his move over to there. We'll be able to grab that and throw it straight on his chest. Xron literally just playing for the audio cues as he bides his time, creeping around. The miss on the rail, though, could come back to haunt him, because that's really not ideal.
Right now, Xron's really playing for the 50s rather than the 100s, but up there's Base getting the sneak attack in. Not the best rocket to start with, and Base is actually dearly paying for that. Xron right back over towards Heavy. He's done damage, he knows it, and he's looking to catch Base on any entrance he wants to make towards the Heavy.
Xron. Huge stack and even bigger amount of confidence to work with, but we need to see that. Drops the plasma trail instead to really keep Base trapped in as he roams around, amping himself up, trying to stay hyped into this one. He's still got a lot of time to work with, though. Here comes the chase, the initiation from the LG. Bides his time for the rockets, but it's the trade. And that is going to leave a sour taste in his mouth, Jahan.
Anybody who's fired a rocket launcher, or indeed shot anybody on a staircase, knows how difficult it can be. But that nice little mutual keeps things fresh for Xron. He's going to be able to take away Heavy, Rails, and Tribalt out of the spawn. Very quick move back over towards rockets. And now, as you can see, I mean, there's 2 minutes left. He knows time is not on his side. He needs to make some damage happen. But he's wanting to get these initial hits around the corners first. He's running low on rockets and not getting any hits out of them whatsoever. Nothing is connecting. It's as bad as his own latency.
Yeah, terrible predicament to be left into. Really not much time left now on the clock. And Xron, I mean, he has an opportunity. We're not that far down in the actual frag lead for Base. He needs to start showing those teeth, getting the claws out, doing some kind of damage, and this could be the next chance for that. They both work round back over towards Mega. Both major items essentially coming up at the same point now, so they should just be able to split them. Then it needs to be a scrap towards the finish.
At the same time, Xron's got to make some decisions here. He's actually had very good awareness throughout the entire map. I mean, it might not be awareness, it might just be raw speed. He's really covering all the angles so quickly. But right now, he's got a great stack. He's just got to find Base. Base can use his piercing sight just to avoid a little bit longer, but it's down at the moment. Just over 40 seconds, and Base has to stay quiet. We hear some footsteps, a pitter-patter of little feet, and Xron is on his way, but he's attacking from maybe the worst corner in the game. That's just really not a tactical option.
Base is just living his movie, Jahar. It's just classic Base at this point. Keep him at arm's length, right? No need to try and initiate. When you do get into a fight, it's working out so much better for him as well with the LG, even at the awkward angle. At this point, it might very well be all said and done. He's not really got a lot of time left to play with. The super shotgun comes out, and that is going to be the good night blow.
That's maybe the best finish I've seen all week. It's been a lonely week, but 5-2. It's going to be Xron really kicking and screaming through Molten Falls, but Base is going to come out on top.
Yeah, back to business straight away there for Base. Standard stuff, really playing with that aggressive tempo a little bit in. As soon as he feels he finds his confidence, just starts swinging and then go straight back into basic Base. He'll just play from a distance. No need to overcommit, no need to take his fights. And Xron just didn't seem to be able to adapt to it quickly enough. Played it nicely, but to start us off on Molten, it definitely was a nice little ease in for Base.
Yeah, and I'll point out the rail accuracies there a little bit. Usually at this level, the rail accuracies are close enough to not really be a huge factor. Here, there was a bit more of a gap, and we really saw that gap come into play in all these cases where you're set up at a corner. You've kind of committed to the fight for a little bit. It's not going to be easy to get out without taking any damage. You need to make it worth it by getting a slug or two into the other guy, but it wasn't happening for Xron. Hopefully, here on the next map on Blood Covenant.
That's also a major issue as well, right? Because we were seeing that constant chip damage from Base a good majority of the times. There's 1 or 2 instances where he did miss that shot with the rail to at least strip off the initial mega pickup. But even though he was losing them, Xron just couldn't really do anything with it, because half the time he was walking away with essentially the same health pool he went into the fight with.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it means more time for Xron to kind of stay in the breadline for the 25 health and the 50 armor, and not really being able to be as aggressive as you would like to be on the heavier mega.
Mm. Well, going into our second map, it is going to be Blood Covenant that is up next. We've got Xron back on the Strog and Pika, and Athena coming out for base. I am a big fan of base's Athena. It's quite fast on this girl.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do on Blood Covenant with Athena, and not having either Strog or Slash in Blood Covenant anymore. I mean, it's kind of been the shift. There have
Mm.
been champion picks that are more about not having a particular champion in this map. You can't ban them all, but you can select kind of maliciously, and that's what we're seeing a little bit of here. But you're right. Athena is a good kind of second choice there. Opens up a lot of opportunities, or at the very least makes for some incredibly embarrassing mistakes. Hopefully,
Oh,
we see both.
absolutely. That would be the dream scenario. It does work well for obviously Base's playstyle, though. It's his little Texas two-step that you can throw into the mix. If he wants to go in aggressively, he can swing in looking like he's ready for a fight, but you can also use it for the escape just to try and play around the map geometries. There's so much that it adds to obviously someone that works in the way Base does.
But this is another map where rail accuracies are going to be a big deal. So hopefully by this point, Xron is feeling more warmed up, a little bit more accurate. And really, depending on the champions, I mean, Athena is one of those champions where if you get the bridge spawn, you can get over to the rail quicker than most. And there are a few champions where you're kind of banking on getting that initial spawn by the rail. If you don't, then it's kind of a moot point. But Athena still has a few tricks up her sleeve.
Oh, she certainly will. Meanwhile, on Camp
She doesn't have
Hron,
any sleeves. Yeah.
well, yeah, actually, to be fair, she is sleeveless there. So maybe in the little gloves, you could try and get them in. Tuck them straight into the gloves. You never know. Where would you
Yeah,
keep your
little
tricks,
Batman
Bihar?
gloves. You'll have to ask my. No, that's
You
Mother's
have to
Day. I was
clear
gonna
that
go
one with your
there.
lawyer. Just no, you got to find out with the PR team. No response on that one. Oh
But
man,
yeah, again, Zrana, I'm hoping he's got some of the rest knocked off there. Base is going to be doing exactly what he has been doing.
yeah.
I'm
I mean,
getting
it's just
corrected
classic
on
base.
Zron's pronunciation. There are 18 different ways to pronounce Zron's name, Xron. But you have to realize it's early in the morning. I've only had 2 cups of coffee. I cannot say Xron. See, it's impossible. I'm going to stay Zron.
Double down on the old run ball.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all right. It'll work out in the end. It'll either be that or tons of
Maybe
unparalleled
not for
aggression.
him though. I mean, Base has been, as you mentioned at the top of the show, been kind of staying in the middle of the pack.
Hmm.
This is an opportunity to get, I don't want to say free points, but it'll bolster him a little bit.
Well, it's just a last minute injection, right? Obviously, being the final week, this is your last real chance to hopefully maybe push yourself a little bit more over the line, or at least firmly keep yourself in the position you're in. And that's kind of the ideal spot for Base to stay into.
Yeah.
He's at what, 7th position in the rankings now. You're not really going to have to worry, but if you can at least guarantee you're staying at 7th, that's a pretty good seed going into finals.
Yeah, and that has a big impact depending on who you're going to be playing. Obviously, because of COVID, our setup for the finals in this stage are going to be a little bit different. It's going to be regional at first, which means that Zron is having to shift from thinking about his seedings for the general pool to just his seedings for Europe, at least initially.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose it's a double-edged sword of how you feel about that, right? At least you've
Yeah.
been able to go into that knowing your opponent's a little bit more of a domestic matchup. You're not thrown straight into it, having to try and not only deal with the idea of you're going into matchups you might not feel comfortable with, playing against players you haven't really had enough time to prepare for, but also dealing with high ping. So it's a little bit better in that sense, but you've also got the issue of people do know you. They know how you play. Obviously, these guys have been battling it out week in, week out, let alone the amount of scrims and prac they've been putting in. So you are a known quantity. Will that come to hurt him?
Yeah, and it is going to be online. I know the initial plan was to rent a small island in the Pacific, but that kind of fell through. Somebody else got it first, but we're just going to be doing it online now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We were trying to buy that out, but I think Too Good got in there too early. Well, Blood Covenant coming up next, so
Speaking of
hopefully we
lawyers.
can. It's just all going wrong immediately.
Yeah.
Ah, goddamn. We'll
All
have to
right, but
get
we got
Flea on the
Strog,
job
we've
next
got
time.
Athena, yeah, and we're just about set.
Yeah, straight back in, second game of the day. Let's see if there's going to be some reinvigoration coming through from Hron. We're going to need him to. So obviously a slow start. But will he have a fast finish moving on? If he can still at least take this series in a 2-1 fashion, he'll get the majority of the points and maybe be able to at least push himself somewhere further up the standings. He needs to try and move on from that 17th position.
Fight.
Well, here we go, but it's going to be Base actually getting a spawn directly on the rail platform itself. Xron wasn't too far either, but all he could do is cut the corner just in time to catch a slug between the eyes, which leaves the Mega up for Base. And makes this incredibly awkward for Xron. He's immediately got to go down to like the basement side of the map, try to take away weapons. He's got rockets at the very least. He's putting some pressure on the rail. He needs it. He knows he can't waste any time. Already throwing out a couple shots and keeping Base, who's again going to be a little bit lighter here for being Athena, on his toes.
Base starting to peel back immediately. It's a big deal going to be utilizing that railgun. As you said, he was a lot more proficient over on Molten. And my goodness, Jahar, straight back in. He is proving your point incredibly there with a lovely little opening rail.
That's an unfortunate precedent to set here on Blood Covenant because, again, every time you respawn, you've got to go back for that rail. It's just how the game works. And Xron is looking at it, can't commit to it, taking damage for his trouble, getting stuck down here in the corner, and having to be very kind of flighty and tricky just to stay out of arm's reach, or rail's reach for that matter.
Oh, he's got a lot of distance to work with at the minute. His range seems unrivaled. We'll miss that one around, but has the drop down. Also has the height advantage to work with. Rockets coming out. They're not really going to connect, but he's still landing those rails. And Xron, he has to keep on the move, trying to bail out of there. So many shots being impaled straight into him, though, and this is putting him into quite a precarious position.
Oh no, there's the hook. Base just solidly taking that next frag. The biggest difference here so far is at least Xron is being battered back and forth between major items, so at least he's keeping Base from getting a really heavy stack at any given moment, but so far all the hits are coming out of Base.
Yeah, Base is definitely doing the damage early on. Tribolt will put a little bit of a pin on that for now, though. Stops him from pushing up overly aggressively and should secure Kron the heavy pickup. Bit of a spam coming through from the HMG, though, lighting him up. And he's actually really in a dangerous spot. If he can get the next rail off, then he would be able to send him straight down. It's just not working out. He couldn't commit through on that one. It's left him in quite a timid position.
Not working out and not worth it. That was almost a dire case of one more shot-itis. You just think, I could just get this next one. I know it's risky, but I could definitely get it. No, I'm sorry, you can't. But Xron's taken this opportunity to completely stack back up, taking control, keeping Base kind of on a poorer side of the map. So Base for the first time is having to go a little bit quiet, a little bit sneaky. Looking for that fly-by rail, not connecting with it, and that was his last slug as well. He's got to actually rotate for a little bit of ammo here. This is Xron's opportunity. Does he know it?
Shots whizzing by. Base still really on the move, making full use of that grapple as he's been hoovering up all of those hourglasses. Prime time position to be playing from, and the angle works out lovely. Cheeky little tap from a distance.
This is not the time for an attrition fight either. Yeah, Base is going to be leaving that out. Xron taking away the heavy, and immediately rocket jumping up to the bridge to put some pressure on the Mega. Base knows it. He's going to be trying to stay away, but he ends up getting a rail in the back. Base has nowhere to go now, except just trying to avoid Xron, who is again going to have to stay at the bottom of the map. Base has some height advantage there. He's going to try to use it just to stay alive. Xron, though, is keeping his iron grip on the items, taking away Mega, coming back in here for the fight for heavy in 6 seconds, and Base is just leaving it. He might stab in with one rail, but he's actually getting it traded for once, for twice actually, as Ron takes the frag back and lands himself on the board.
Yeah, Ron finally coming into play there. He'd been doing a good job of keeping the momentum. Now we actually see that work. He gets the tag off, takes down Base. It's only a one frag split between the both of the Battle of the Mega. Finally going to go the way of Base, however, as he will swing into action. So I'm just spamming out those rockets, sends in Pika for a cheeky little peek to try and get some info. Decides it's not worth it, and we'll just take it straight down. It's a near miss on the rails, now starting to come out from Base.
This is a chancy play, but he knows that it's just going in for the heavy here would be risky, but he whisked both rails from kind of oblique angles. Those 10 seconds of kind of hovering around the heavy, like Xron knew he had to do some damage to make this next fight worth it. That means that this play going into Mega, yeah, they're just going to be trading items, but that doesn't do Xron any good.
No. just really not giving him the extra oomph he needs, but those shots certainly will. 3 rounds remaining as he starts firing them all out in rapid succession, hoping to really leave quite a massive dink in the man that was previously known as Base. Rocket will do that job for him, though, as it connects, slamming into his chest, replenishes his rails, and now he's on the hunt, Jahar. He's going in fast.
He's left up the heavy as well. The timing for the heavy has already been offset a little bit, but Xron just wanted to keep the high ground and take away the Mega, which gives the heavy right back over to Base. But now the health is a little bit more even. Xron down to railable health. No good for him, and there's a machine gun coming out. That was almost a brilliant play. The only difference is Xron was thinking, I'm faster than him. I can bounce between Mega and Heavy before he's even there. Forgetting that he's Athena, forgetting that he's also got a gauntlet. There's the tricks up his gloves, as you were mentioning.
Yep.
That's what you keep in your glove.
Oh, I mean, you need to. At certain times, you got to
Giant
pull them
set
out.
of blades. Yeah.
Apparently, he's got his Butcher Pete blades up there, and he's chopping that meat, Jahar, and now he's certainly chopping his way through him. That's another frag found. This is disgusting from Base.
So Xron not going for that heavy and making the gambit to go for the Mega first. That's where this all started, and it might end with Xron dropping another map unless things change here pretty quickly. It is heartbreaking, though, because there was a lot of thought put into that. It was a good play. Base was just 10% faster than Xron was expecting.
That's the big picture about this as well that's so rough, because obviously, if you look at the scoreline now, it seems like it's been quite inflated to Base for a good majority of the game. In reality, it was close the whole time, but that one mistake has been so costly in the long run that Base has been able to build off it massively, and obviously once Base gets a lead like this, if he wants to turn that switch and try and play slow and just keep you at a distance, he probably will.
Which certainly seems to be the plan at the moment. He's kind of getting back to the corner here on the teleporter, trying to bait him into it, ducking out with some pretty good damage off the rocket. But Xron's still got away with that Mega. He's got a little bit of armor under his belt. Here comes the play for the heavy. Oh, did Base mean to fall off there? He whips out a rail out of nowhere just to stay defensive and gets the hell out of dodge. I mean, that was, yeah, he woke up there, certainly.
Oh, the plays as well. The Dukes as he plays around the portal, getting the shot off with the rocket. This is fantastic footwork coming out from Base. Not only is he on point with his rails, but he's certainly been doing his early morning jogs. He's been getting his exercise in.
The good thing Athena has feet, but Base here having to give up the heavy. Xron has been taking away so many items here. If I take a look, it's been like they're relatively, excuse me, even on the Megas. Heavies have been going to Xron like nothing. Base has hardly gotten any of those, but still, all the damage is coming out of Base. Playing the teleporter once again. And here comes the rocket play, which, yeah, Xron really hasn't had much of a fight with, but there's a rail coming out of nowhere just to save the day, taking away the Mega. A little bit of Stroid to top him up as well. It's part of this complete breakfast as the heavy's about to pop. But this is all time going down the drain. Base is, again, in that point you mentioned where he can start playing the game a little bit slower, not have to be as aggressive on any of these heavy items, and still manage to sneak away these frags. Oh my god, what? That rocket actually connected. No follow-up rail, unfortunately, but there's the follow-up finally. He's looking for just that last little bit of HMG damage, but there's the tri-bolt. More of a do-bolt, really.
Goodness. 3 frags remain for Xron to maybe have a chance to get his hands on this one. He's starting to bring it back. He's found his form, but now it is going to need to be that consistent chase game. He has to really make the use of the time he has left, and it's dwindling second by second. He's starting to speed it up as he bounces his way back over towards Mega. On the hunt, barely tries to figure out where exactly Base has gotten to, but the shenanigans are starting to throw him off. He has his Pika in his back pocket if it's needed, but he's sticking to the rail for now. They're not really connecting. Rocket's coming through, Base is getting low, but the Mega will buff that right out.
Yeah, now he's got to take away a few 25s. Every single one of these laps just to get some health back is going to be costly for Xron. It's going to be running a little bit light on rocket ammo as well. 13 seconds to Mega. The big question is Base even going to show up to pillars here? He might punish the jump pad a little bit, but he can sneak away whenever he wants. And indeed, Xron's not even noticed him out here on the ledge. Oh, here comes Peeker. Is it going to be worth it? No, it's not even a hook frag. As Xron was completely defenseless.
Oh, man. Base is making full use of everything he's brought in his toolkit from work this morning. Just absolutely going to town on him. He had the pummel, he's had the hook. He's had this game, hook, line, and sinker, really. 30 seconds remain. I don't see anything else coming out from Xron here, and It's just unfortunate, and it's a mechanical mastermind display we've had from Base. He's looking on point in every manner.
Yep. Our resident evil genius. He's had some fantastic reflexes as well, but yeah, hook, line, and thinker for sure.
Oh, lovely. There we go. The 400 IQ plays we've had coming out from him.
You win.
All right, and there it is. That's 2 up on nil for Base. Xron has one more chance to, well, I'm not sure what he's going to be getting in the rankings, but he can get something in terms of pride at the very least.
Yeah.
Personal.
That's maybe the best he can hope for, right? Just the old pat on the back, try and keep himself moving on. That's rough. It is unlucky, but it also just goes down to the fact that Base individually right now is looking absolutely ridiculous. He looked so good throughout the course of that.
Even the mistakes he made, he managed to do with a little bit of grace, which is a benefit if you're playing Athena. But that's a lot of the light champions kind of knocked out of the running here. Going into the third map, we might see a little bit more HP come into the play.
Yeah, Xron picking up the BJ and Base going for the Doom. So obviously we do get to see about that Akimbo onslaught coming out from Xron, but in reality, is that going to be able to give him double the firepower he needs?
Well, going into Ruins, again, this is a series where all 3 maps are very rail heavy, very angle based. Xron has had to play kind of we're both light, so I need to just like stab him with a rocket. If I miss it, that's a big problem. With a little bit more stack and a little bit slower movement coming into the 4, there might be some stickier fights, and it's going to be much more about those initial rockets.
Yeah. Oh, seems like we're almost ready to get underway straight away with this one. No dilly-dallying, as we'll slip inside Sarnath and see where it's going to go. Base again.
Sarnath? Did you ask Sarnath for? All right.
Yeah. I'll clear that one over. I'll make sure I get consent. Don't worry. Hopefully, Base will get consent for some of the disgusting things he's been doing as well.
He never asked.
It doesn't seem
definitely,
like
it's so much easier to ask for forgiveness than permission kind of guy.
He just takes. That's all he does.
Yeah. He just takes and takes.
He's like a raccoon. Just comes in stealing things.
Of all the mammals to go with, you go with the raccoon. All right, yeah.
Dude, they're good. I mean, they're the best at stealing. They're equipped for it. They've got their little hands. They do technically also have gloves as well, so they're ready.
Base has massive hands. I will go on record.
What's the wingspan of his hand?
It's huge hands.
Goodness. I mean,
all right, here we go. On Ruins of Sarnath. Xron and Base. Hopefully Xron has a little bit more to bring to the table here. It's going to be Base on Doom Guy, though, which is not... I mean, he's a useful pick here because a lot of the fights are kind of flatter. You've got fights down at LG, you've got fights at Heavy Armor, you've got fights at Mega, and the double jump helps with avoiding a lot of rocket damage and dodging a lot of those rails. But other than that, it's not like it gives him a lot of tactical advantage, especially with the spawn that he got on the Cubby Armor side of the map. But there's a rocket pop up to the top. 10 seconds to Mega. Not a whole lot to play for right now. Xron is pretty much going to have free reign to get whatever weapons he needs.
Well, here comes our initial kerfuffle between the two boys as they battle in the center, trying to gain control of that Mega. Lots of damage done, and history is beginning to repeat itself for Base here. Swiping his way at Xron. Ooh, a lot of damage, but he couldn't finish Jahar. He's been forced back after that rail.
It's kind of been the trend here. Yeah, Xron bringing in that BJ. We're really going to have to see how useful the dual wields come out in the pinch. Again, a lot of flatland fights, a lot of fights where once you're in it, you're kind of stuck. Hopefully that's enough of an edge, and hopefully he doesn't get donked out by Base's Doom Guy. But Mega's going to be up 4 seconds to Heavy. This map has always been interesting because you can hear when the other item's been picked up so easily. So there's no real masking the timing here, especially if you're down at Heavy. You've got to choose your exit carefully.
The audio can be so prevalent on a map like this to really give you the extra information you need, and Base is trying to make full use of that as he slowly tiptoes his way around, gets contact, fires off the shot, but didn't realize he was actually being pushed from the rear. Xron, he's gone all in, tons of damage done, leaving him down on very low stack, but Base tries to make the getaway play, but he wasn't quick enough. Where did that even
come from? And for once, Xron opens up the frags on the map. He's got one up on Nil at the moment. Oh, he thought he was going to be cool with the rocket jump, but it's going to be the starting shotgun to finish him off, tying it back up 1-1. Unfortunate. It would have been cool if Base wasn't in the room. Unfortunate for him, but Base diving down for Heavy. It's still 10 seconds away. He's lost his sight of the timing a little bit, but he heard the teleporter, which means he knows that Xron will be coming out from the other armor side. But what can he do? He's got a railgun. He won't have a rocket just yet. This is not... Oh, he does have a rocket launcher. In fact, he's got 2, but Base just needs 1 rail to finish him off.
That's all that was required, and again, he's gone. 2 minutes and 30 through, and it's a 2-1 split on the frags. Here could be the next one already forming, though. The LG is out for Base, and he's made quick work out of Xron. That was a shocker.
Yeah, he's able to take some of these LG fights because he knows that Xron is stuck with just the 1. But at this point, Xron's able to spawn, and by merit of that, having a slightly better stack, at least until the heavy's taken away. And again, no rail. I'm getting to the point where I'm shedding a tiny, tiny tear every time we see one of these blind rails whiff by Base's face.
Just a little one, though.
Yeah.
Not a full-size tear.
Tiny
you don't
tear.
want to use those too early in the day.
It's a little baby tear.
Ooh.
Oh. What?
Okay. Oh my. Wow, the game
Can
of whack-a-mole.
just undo that entire fight? That was a travesty. That was... We're here to see the creme de la creme, the top of the game, and that was not... that was not it.
I mean, there was certainly something. The sneaky play was there, but it didn't really give him anything. And then the whack-a-mole just attack from Base to finish it. All of it was quite interesting.
Jeez. This is not the way it's supposed to go. And again, a little bit more of an ambush on the teleporter exit up on the platform. A little bit more of a rare one, and Xron manages to take it together. But Heavy's back up. Xron's not looking at it. He's looking at the teleporter exit at the moment, which means, yeah, I mean, unless he gets these next 2 rails in, Base is going to get away with that. Because this Mega's going to go to Xron. Fortunately for him, he didn't take any damage, but what is he bringing to this fight on the Heavy? Oh, he's bringing a rail! Okay, there it is! I don't know what Xron did to Base, but discombobulation seems to be the name of the game. No, not the LG, not the punches. What?
Oh, what is this?
He didn't even switch to rocket.
He just stuck to his guns and it paid off. Now he's absolutely running rampant with the rail as well. Here we go. Xron's back in action.
Where was this 8 games ago?
I don't know. He's certainly had more than 2 coffees this morning, as now he's doing some damage.
Yeah.
Response is there, at least, to try and force him back. He isn't going to go overly aggressive, so confidence hasn't started really sending him off on a wild one just yet, but I don't know if he'll be breathing for too much longer.
Yeah, he can't keep doing that forever. At some point, he's going to need to take another dose of those little blue globules. Base 60 and 50. Getting another rail off the jump pad. And Xron got a small armor out of that, so I hope he feels like that was worth it. 2 rails now. As Xron's going to be stuck down at the LG. Goes for the health like a nincompoop. He went for the health. Classic play. I hit him. He needed more health. He went for the health. Just how it works.
Baited him in. Set him up. That was all it took. Base now. Back leading. Only 1 frag, so this game is still at least competitive, giving us something to work towards, but the Rockets are certainly starting to end that with a midi finish onto Xron Base. Oh, he's doing some damage.
There's no getting up from that one. Still, for all the ridiculousness, it's only 2 frags apart. It's difficult to call at this point. But Base is showing that, yeah, he's certainly bringing more rail to the table. There's not a heavy item to play for a little bit, so Xron's got to be happy with what he's got. Fortunately, what he's got is a little bit of extra armor. Just a little bit, though. It's not enough to offset things if Base gets the first rail in, but what? You can't punch him from there. This isn't patch 1.8, you know? It's...
He doesn't have the reach. Ooh. All right. I mean, that's certainly going to leave Xron reaching, at least, as he's forced to try and reposition. Shot comes out on the Heavy. A lot of damage done. He knows Base is low and wants to finish, and will finally be able to end him.
Alright. Yeah, this is a gimme rail. You need to smack him in the face as he spawns up on that horrible spawn. Worst spawn of the map, but Xron doesn't really get anything out of it. 10 seconds to Mega, a little bit longer than that to Heavy, so Xron's got to make some decisions. He doesn't have a rocket launcher. First decision might be to get one of those, but that's going to put him in the fight for the Mega. Is this worth it? Well, Base is actually giving that up to go get the Heavy, but what's this actually going to be? Jump pad? No, he's already out of here. You got to hit with the rockets, though. You have to hit with them. 2 to 1, it still doesn't work out.
I mean, you have to have a rocket launcher, but if you're just whiffing, you might as well have none, and that's the position he's now been left in. Down a frag again, Base. Just barely dodging that with his smooth moves as he does a little twist and turn, goes back in with the LG. They're both essentially in the same position stack-wise, but Base is better off when it comes to hitting the shots.
At this point, yeah, the fist coming out are just a little bit of a dunk, but Base has got 5 health. Is he going to get out of here? Well, right now, 5 or 50 doesn't really matter. If Xron is committed to the rail, yeah, that could have been machine gun, that could have been shotgun, could have been any number of things. But Base is just content to admire the walls, thinking somebody really should come through here with some grout cleaner and a brush.
A bit of a power washer, potentially, really clean that off.
Can't be up to code. Is that black mold?
Ooh, don't breathe that.
No. That's what the helmets are for, really.
Oh, that is true. He's got the respirator.
Yeah. He's actually ready for cleanup duty. But right now, all he's really cleaning up is Ron. It's going to be 3 maps to 0 in this series, which is bad news for Xron going into finals. Like you said earlier, Base is in a pretty comfortable state with his seeds, but I mean, we've got 1 more minute for Xron to do something incredible, do something amazing, do something breathtaking. I'm ready for it.
There's still time. He needs to make full use of it. It's consistently ticking by, and so is his stack starting to tick down. The shots from the rail missing that time around, as Base did go for the opening shot. Was hoping to get the chip damage off to really leave him close to death the next time they do have to have an encounter. 60 seconds is basically all that remains now for Xron. Can he get 2 frags? Can he push it to sudden death?
I wonder if Bates is more wondering if he's going to give him 2 frags or even give him 2 fights. But he's in here for the fight for the heavy, beating him off with it and taking away the heavy itself. Coming back in for play number 2 through the teleporter. Is he going to find him there? He was, in fact, expecting an ambush. He was like, all right, I've got 130, 130. Let's dance. Sometimes you just need the hug rockets.
Make you feel
Reach
good on
out
the
and frag
inside.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 30 seconds. This is basically it, as Base really trying to show that he wants to fully guarantee he'll at least keep himself in 7th position going forward. Nice little flick away, as Base doesn't really want to look at his own explosion. Far too cool for that.
Way too cool. That is maybe the thing I'm most sad about not being able to have a lamp for this final is seeing Base up to his usual antics. Maybe we'll get a video out of him anyway.
I'd hope so. That's kind of like the the extra cherry on top for Base, right? Is the goofiness that he likes to bring out in person.
GG's being called, and indeed they were really touch and go for a long time. But it was Base doing all the touching and Xron doing all the going.
Yeah, going straight down, losing all 3 of our maps there. Molten Blood and Sarnath all going the way of Base. As he came out swinging, he was looking fired up, and for an early start to the day, it definitely didn't show. He was warm and ready for this one.
Everything except for the rails. So the only warm bits of them now are spread across 3 maps. That is going to be Base taking all the points this weekend, and Xron will have to lick his wounds.
He will. He'll need to take some time to at least recover after that one. And luckily, he's got some downtime, obviously, just about 5 days before we get into the finals. There is enough time for him to rest up and potentially reminisce over what he could have changed. For Base, though, you imagine he's probably going to be sitting pretty after that, as it was a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah, especially towards Sarnath there was definitely an element of kind of toying with him a little bit. Of course, these guys have been playing together for approximately 80 years, so the rapport is certainly there.
Yeah, the accumulated time on the server together is probably through the roof, so I don't think they'll be too caught off guard about the fight they went into. Overall, definitely a nice victory for Base to obviously get in. It was his last matchup coming into this. Both our eyes were on Xron to impress us, really, to see if maybe he could reinvigorate himself. Unfortunately, he couldn't. Going 0-3 down does mean that there is a ton of extra points given to Base in the final week. Still more to come tonight, of course, though. This was only the first game of many. We have another 7 duels going down tonight. So if you do want to stay with us, keep it locked here for week 10 of the Quake Pro League. We will be back with our next game, Dewey versus Zeneku, after the break.